All right, Mel Kiper Jr. back. It's Lot Championship weekend, and nobody's more pumped than I am. Star brought me back in. We've reached a new agreement. Good news is, Lotters, I will be back next season on a full-time basis. Things got a little chaotic around Star Vegas Inc. I was out, I was in, some back and forth. We've reached an agreement to keep me on through the 2014 season, so that's a great thing. But more importantly, we've got Lot Championship weekend coming up here. Four great franchises going at it in an undercard, and then, of course, for the title game. When you think about the four teams that are involved, some real upper echelon organizations when it comes to the lot. You're talking about Landshark and Raging Starfish, two teams that are perennial playoff powerhouses. You think about three championships between them, never been able to meet each other in the championship game for all the marbles. I think this is going to be a classic game, go down in lot history as one of the best championships ever. The undercard, the Fuff Bowl, if you will. You know, you got Stinker and Hooligan, two other teams that have some championship pedigree. So it should be a good weekend for the lot. But I'm fired up to review the games, give you guys some insight. So we're going to let this thing rip. Let's start with the undercard. We got Hooligan at Stinker. Hooligan is actually favored by 2 in this matchup. Let's start with his side of the house. You know, you got Drew Brees coming off the disappointing performance against the Rams last week. I expect Drew to bounce back. You know, it's a tough Carolina defense, but I think Sean Payton's a little humiliated by what St. Louis did to them. I think Drew's a little humiliated. I think they're going to come out swinging, and that probably means good things for Hooligan. Uh, you Hooligan's had some real issues at the running back spot this year, and it's evident when you're starting Jordan Todman in a playoff game. And but that's what he's doing. It's not a bad matchup. You saw Todman get the bulk of the carries last week. MJD's still dinged up in Jacksonville. He's going to get the workload. Tennessee's good against the pass, not so good against the run. So we expect Todman to do some good things in this matchup. Zach Stacy, you know, torched New Orleans last week. This week he gets a tough matchup. That Buccaneer defense is tough against the run. So don't expect great things from Zach Stacy, but I do expect him to get a ton of work and should provide some fantasy value for Hooligan in this one moving forward. Antonio Brown, Pittsburgh against Green Bay, kind of a crapshoot. You know, last week Pittsburgh got up early, really stopped throwing the ball, ran the ball a bunch. Matt Flynn at the helm for Green Bay hasn't really been effective in putting a lot of points on the board. So I feel like if Pittsburgh gets up again in this one, you might see Antonio Brown sort of get phased out of the offense. But still a great play, nice deep threat. Hooligan can hope for a couple shots down the field, maybe get some points on the board. Demaryius Thomas, love this play this week. Houston is atrocious. Expect the forehead to put up mammoth points, and I expect Thomas to be part of that equation. So look for big things there. Marquise Colston, as I said, the Breeze connection with Colston is going to happen this weekend. The Saints are a little bit humiliated by what happened last week, so I expect them to bounce back. Only downside for Colston is he doesn't play as well outdoors as he does indoors. So, of course, this game being at Carolina, temper your expectation for the production here for Colston. Nick Novak, I think San Diego is going to rout Oakland. They put up a lot of points in the first meeting. Oakland, we saw them get torched by Jamal Charles and the Chiefs last week. So look for Oakland to not put up much resistance, and that only rewards the kicking game for San Diego. The Saints D, decent play here. You know, they've been a top 10 fantasy defense all year. But, you know, going against that Carolina offense, you know, you've got Cam Newton, likes to pull the ball down and run, not a big candidate for sacks, doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, so not really an opportunistic play this week for the Saints to get turnovers and sacks, but I understand if you have to start them. They've been a good defense all year, so we'll see what they can do. I would temper my expectations for the output there. For the home stinker, you know, again, it's all about the forehead. He's got a fantastic matchup this week. I see this as one of the weeks where, you know, he can actually carry the team and probably put them over the top. So 20-something points is not out of the question for Manning this week. Eddie Lacy came back last week, looked like he was getting healthy again, so should do pretty well. Pittsburgh's run defense has been a little bit suspect, so expect some good things there from him. Got to get a quick drink here. Yes, this segment is sponsored by Crown Royal. You move on down to Trent Richardson. Last week was kind of a fluke for Stinker. I mean, he just put him in there to have a warm body in the lineup. Ended up getting a short rushing touchdown. Like I said in last week's segment, that's really all he was hoping for. I don't know if he's going to get that lucky again 2 weeks in a row. So this is really just a zero waiting to happen. Maybe get a point or two out of it. We'll see. Andre Johnson, Houston should be playing catch up all weekend. So, he's going to get a good play there. Catch some deep balls from Case Keenum. Opportunity to put up some points trying to play catch up with Peyton Manning. Dwayne Bowe, Jamal Charles was the entire offense last week, so it's kind of hard to say what Bowe's role is anymore because now Charles is running the ball, he's catching the ball out of the backfield. So if you're a wide receiver or a tight end on Kansas City, you're never really guaranteed for much fantasy value. So I don't know much about that as far as a fantasy play this week. Anquan Boldin, I think, is a great play this week. That Falcons secondary is atrocious. I think San Francisco is going to move the ball, and that's going to be a fitting send-off for Candlestick Park as the final regular season game is played there. I think San Francisco is going to rout the Falcons. Prater, again, that Denver offense is never short for scoring points, so I think he's going to have a nice day. And then the Chiefs' defense against Indianapolis, we've seen this year with Andrew Luck. He is prone to the interception. He is mobile, so maybe not as many sacks, but that Chiefs defense will have an opportunity to get in some of the passing lanes and make some plays. Last week I told you I really like Hooligan and how well-rounded his team is. He's got a great quarterback. He's adequate at the running back position with some of the moves he's been able to make just to plug in some people who are productive. He's got a great receiving core. Just a really well-balanced team. And going into this matchup, I was thinking, man, this is a no-brainer. This is going to be Hooligan all day. My problem is that some of his matchups are actually pretty tough. I have confidence that New Orleans is going to make the adjustments to be better this week, to be able to move the ball against that Carolina front seven, but they are formidable. And Manning's just got such a great matchup against Houston. I'm concerned that he might just put up one of those overwhelming games that's kind of hard to overcome. So this really comes down to a coin flip. I gotta take Stinker. He's the dog here. He's been 11-4 this year. He's had a really good coach rating. He's number 2 basically because outside of Manning, nobody else scores, so he really has no mistakes to make in his lineup. So I'm just going to go ahead and say Stinker pulls the upset here and gets the third place money in the lot. So let's move on to the main event. Like I said, 2 powerhouses. It was only a matter of time before these 2 teams met in a championship game. 2 great coaches, 2 great organizations that are perennial up at the top of the standings. So we'll start here. Sharks a 4-point favorite in this. Not surprising. Again, a really well-rounded team. So we'll start with his side of the fence. You go Tom Brady. His receiver situation is a mystery, but it doesn't matter to Brady. He just keeps coming. He'll throw to anybody. He's got the 2 rookies. Are they healthy? Are they not healthy? Amendola's got groin problems. At least Edelman's in the lineup. As long as he's there, it seems like he's got a reliable target. So look for him to probably have the typical 250 to 275 2-touchdown game. It's not going to be anything huge, but it'll be enough to support the rest of the team from the quarterback position. You move on down. Matt Forte, this Bears-Eagle game, I think is going to be one of the big shootouts of the weekend along with the Dallas-Washington game. But the Bear-Eagle game is just chock full of playmakers and absolutely no defense. So you think about Forte, I've got him going for over 100 yards from scrimmage and probably a touchdown as well. So that's a great play this week. Frankie Gore going Monday night. There's some talk that he might be limited, but I just don't think it's going to matter. I think that he's going to be out on the field with enough snaps to do some damage against that Falcon defense, and especially when they get down inside the 5, it's going to be him or Kaepernick running the ball into the end zone. So, again, another good play. We move on down here. We're going to have Josh Gordon and Alshon Jeffrey again. I said it last week. It's just the best wide receiver tandem in the league this year. I harken back to a couple years ago. Starr had something similar when he had Randy Moss and Larry Fitzgerald when they were both in their prime. This is reminiscent of that duo. These guys are just unstoppable. Gordon is going up against a Jets secondary that can't stop me. So look for him to have a really big day. It could be another 200-yard effort and a score, or maybe another score. So definitely a great play there. Alshon Jeffrey, we just talked about the Bear-Eagle matchup. Not a whole lot of defense being played there. I think both those wide receivers in Chicago are going to have great games. Just hope that the weather holds out and will allow the playmakers to make those plays. You move on down, Jordy Nelson. I'm sure Shark wishes that Rodgers was back this week. That would make a huge difference. But Jordy is still the guy in the Green Bay passing attack. And the Pittsburgh secondary, as I stated before, is a little bit suspect. So I think that he should be in for a decent game there. Again, weather permitting. Moving on through, Mason Crosby, kicking for Green Bay. Should get some opportunities. I don't see that as a really high-scoring affair. Like I said, Pittsburgh's probably going to try to play ball control offense. Green Bay really hasn't been putting a lot of points on the board. So, maybe a couple field goal opportunities for Crosby, but nothing like what we saw from Baltimore's kicker Tucker Monday night with the 6 field goals. So moving on down, you got the Panther D. Like I said, they're a great D. It's not the best play this week. If Breeze is on his game, he's not throwing any interceptions. He's probably getting rid of the football before he's getting sacked. So they should get a few points, but I wouldn't look for anything huge. You always do have to be careful. Ted Ginn, great return man, always have the opportunity for a special teams touchdown there. So that's what I think about Sharks' side of the fence. We move it over to Star. He's going with Phillip Rivers. Rivers had a great game the last time he played Oakland. It was over 400 yards passing and a few touchdowns. Again, this is going to depend on, do they get the running game going? Are they out in front by 3 touchdowns? And does he just turn around and hand it off? Or is Oakland going to make a game of this to where Rivers has to keep throwing the football? That remains to be seen, but it is a nice matchup for Rivers. I actually think the site's got him ranked a little low for only putting out 6 points. I think it's probably a little bit higher than that. But still, it should be a nice quarterback start for Star in Rivers. Much like I think so highly of Sharks' wide receiver core, I think very highly of Star's running back core, LaShawn McCoy and Jamal Charles. LaShawn McCoy, again, part of that Bears-Eagles game that I think is going to be a shootout. I think that the Eagles learned something last week, that you can't give LaShawn McCoy 8 touches even though you're behind. He's just an explosive talent, and when he gets his hands on the football, it doesn't matter whether he's running it or catching it, he can make things happen. So I look for Philadelphia to feed McCoy the football and look for him to have a really big day against the Bears. Jamal Charles, everybody's kind of saying, well, can he duplicate what he did last week? Well, no. Not only is Indianapolis a better defense than Oakland, but just 5 touchdowns is just unrealistic. I do expect him to have 100 yards from scrimmage through the air and on the ground, as well as at least 1 touchdown, probably 2, just because he is the focal point of that offense. And anytime they get down in the red zone, he's typically the guy that's going to get the most shots to get in. So, this is Star's Achilles heel, really, is the receiving core. He's going with Kendall Wright this week. Tennessee plays at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's got a bad secondary. Kendall Wright coming off a 12-catch, 150-yard performance last week against a good Arizona secondary. So hoping that Kendall Wright can keep that momentum going and hopefully put up some points against that porous Jacksonville secondary. The Riley Cooper start is really just based on the matchup. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think that Nick Foles is going to have a chance to take a couple deep shots. Definitely think Deshaun Jackson is going to get the majority of those, but definitely Riley Cooper has a chance at some of those as well. So in a bad receiving core, he was the least of all the evils, so he gets into the lineup for Star. Giovanni Bernard, I think, is really has the potential to be the catalyst in Star's lineup this week. Minnesota's bad. I think Cincinnati looked at what they did with McCoy last week and probably won't make that same mistake with Bernard because he's a very similar back. He's a game changer. I think they want to get Bernard the ball probably 12 to 15 times and let him get into space and make some plays against that Minnesota secondary. And apparently someone let some dogs in the building. I hope that's not coming through. But anyway, Bernard's going to be a great play this week. I think he's going to have 100 yards from scrimmage as well as at least one score. Stephen Hauschka has been money as a kicker. Seattle's offense is just custom made for field goal kickers. You know, they drive it down, they get it inside the 30. Things tend to stall because they are a power run team. So Hauschka definitely gets his opportunities at multiple field goals every week. And then, you know, Starr picked up the Lions defense this week and decided to start them. Obviously, the opponent had a lot to do with that. The Giants, Manning's terrible. As of right now, he's got no one to throw the ball to. Cruz is going to miss the week. Hakeem Nicks is out. So, you know, the Lions can really pin their ears back from a pass rush standpoint, really get after Manning, force him to make some bad throws, maybe some turnovers. I think that has the potential to be a really good defensive special teams play for Starr this week. You know, typically when Starr's a dog, he plays his best. But again, I go back to, I look at these two lineups, and Shark really, at every position, has playmakers. And it's really hard to get over on the fact that from every spot, he can put up some big numbers. And I think Starr was definitely aided by Jamal Charles's output last week, and you can't rely on somebody hanging 30 on the scoreboard every week. So I'm taking Shark in this matchup. I think he takes home the title, his second lot title. He'll get into some elite company there with other owners who have won multiple titles. So that's my prediction. I hope everybody has a happy and healthy Merry Christmas and a fun lot championship weekend. Let's see all you guys on the board, rooting for whoever you're rooting for, and giving some congratulations to the winners. Look forward to seeing all of you in the new year. Remember, Mel Kiper will be back here, Star Vegas Inc., for 2014 with a full-time presence on the board. So definitely look forward to that. All right, that's all I got for now. Mel out.